Now I would like to welcome Saghir Bashir. Saghir works at Ilustat, who supported us, our community, since the beginning. Saghir is a data scientist, and today he will challenge us all to think about data science.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. So my talk is entitled Thinking as a Data Scientist, but before I go into the talk and give the explanation behind the title, I don't speak Portuguese, as you noticed, and I speak English relatively fast, and when I get excited I speak even more. Okay, I just get faster. So the simple way to slow me down is just put your hands up and go like this. Okay, so I'm very happy with that because I do realise that I have quite an excitement about my work. Now, Anya may have presented some examples of machine learning in terms of what people are doing in their jobs. So what I want people to do is step back a bit, okay? Thinking as a data scientist. Why didn't I say thinking like a data scientist? Obviously you should say thinking like a data scientist. It's a bit like saying painting like an artist. There is no one model of an artist. If you show them this, if you show them me, let's look at me. If you show them me, people draw different things. Some might look more depressing, some might look more exciting, but they see different things in their pictures. Data scientists will see different things in their data. There's a joke about accountants, but I think it applies to data science. If you give, a set of numbers to a data scientist, you get an answer. But if you give, the same set of number to 5 data scientists, you get 6 answers. So there's always a lot to see in the data. So we're going to think as a data scientist, but there's no one model. I want you to be free, creative, innovative, whatever words excite you to do your job. So the outline of this presentation is to really focus on the questions and decisions. You have data, you have a question hopefully, and you want to do something once you get some answers through some data processing, analysis, communication. So let's go to my main objectives in this presentation. They're to encourage you to adopt good working practices. Okay? It's very easy to play with data, but it's very difficult to keep it in shape. So good working practices are essential. Challenge your thinking. Just think a bit further than what we're used to. We know a method, we love a method, we use it every day. It's like the food. I tend to cook the same food. I like it one day and I'll eat it for a month. So try to cook something different with your data in a way. Not cook like in a fraudulent way, but cook like in a good way. So the main aim of those two is to build trust in your work. You want other people to believe what you've done. More importantly, you have to trust your own work because you have to defend it. But you must be able to portray that to others. And part of building that trust is to enjoy your work. And I do enjoy my work. And I hope some of you do too, or all of you. So my first question is, before I go into details about data scientists, raise your hands if you work with data. Ooh, nearly everybody. Come on, Annie, and you just did. How many of you are data scientists, analysts, statisticians, data programmers, anything like that? I don't really care what terminology you give yourself. Okay, quite a bit. How many of you would like to be? Oh, good, we have some people. That's not the answer. Okay, so we have a good audience here. So you have an interest in data, so I'm in the right place. What about R? Because I'm saying thinking as a data scientist. I haven't mentioned R. Primarily because your data science thinking is independent of the software. And there's a lot of discussions about which software to use and so forth. Honestly, this is the wrong discussion to have often. The real discussion, I'll explain, will come later. So I'm going to give examples from R. I'm going to give references to R. But if you ask me to do the same for SAS, I could do the same presentation. So I think SAS is a bit dated in terms of the way the language works. But if you ask me to do the same in Python, it will be the same. Stata, the same. Give me other programming languages that manage data, you'll have the same presentation. I'll just give you different commands. So throw away R in a way, but think about what you're doing. R is just a facilitator for you to do it. We often get hooked up with R versus Python. This is a bit too political for me. So the first part is questions to decisions. Okay, let's start with a simple example. Will it rain today? This is really a big preoccupation in English-speaking countries, in Britain and so forth. So let's start with the most important question of the day. So, will it rain today? What happens when you have a question like that? Well, it's easy. You take an umbrella, you don't take an umbrella, or you don't go out.
What's an umbrella? What's an umbrella?
What's the Portuguese word? Guarda-chuva.
Still, what's a guarda-chuva?
Okay. We'll have a discussion over coffee. So, let's look at a good day in, I don't know, England maybe? So yesterday you had lots of rain, thunderstorms, and you wake up this morning and it's dark clouds outside. You switch on the television and they tell you it's going to rain. So you say, okay, I take my umbrella. You agree? Okay. Next day you wake up, it's actually thunderstorms after a sunny day, cloudy sunny day from before, and the forecast is rain, you take your umbrella. Now when the British get really excited, when there's going to be light rain, they take a colourful umbrella. Okay, that's all it is. So the decision is take an umbrella, except one day maybe a bit more exciting. It's a great country, you do need some colour some bits. So, how does the data science thinking work? And I spent a lot of time thinking about this. Maybe too much time. I mean, when you have an umbrella, you have a lot of time to think. So, what did I come up with? I think it simplifies to this model, essentially. The thinking is, you start with a question, will it rain today? Then somebody somewhere collects some data. You have lots of data. What do you collect from the weather data? The rainfall, the pressure, the cloud cover, maybe various parameters around machines around the country that are collecting a lot of data. Now we can feed that to people, but everybody's going to think, what does this mean? So what we do is we simplify that data by means of analysis. We reduce the dimensionality as a technical term, but all we're doing is reducing the amount of information that's digestible. It will rain today. Okay? That's the answer you want. So when you made it small enough to be understood, you make it accessible in the communication. And if you look back on the previous one, the accessibility, we're all familiar with these. You look on a forecasting in a newspaper, you look at a forecast on the television, they summarise it down to this. So the communication is very, very, very simple. And the final thing is you make use of it. You take an umbrella, or you wear your sunglasses, or you do whatever excites you the most. So, just so that you also see me on this side, the doing part is essentially what Hadley Wickham in this middle part here does, except there's only one small modification here. Where this says import, I would say collect and import, because there's a process of collecting data. There's a process of collecting the right data. You collect that data, you read it into some tool, let's say R, by chance. You clean up that data, you put it in a form that it can be analysed, or it can be visualised, it can be summarised, and then you go through a process of once you have the data in a way you can manage it, you do this process of understanding what your data is telling you. You're looking for patterns in your data effectively. What does your data show you? Now you have to be careful that the patterns aren't misleading and they become optical illusions. So you go through this process and you check things, and I think some of the discussion that Annie was having and me, that you do see things, but you need to double check them. If you're not sure, check them again until something's broken. So get your data, import it, tidy it up, do some transformation, visualization, modeling, we'll go into that. Once you've understood it, you communicate. Once you've communicated it, you're back to decision. So the thinking process and the doing processes are aligned. Okay, they're really, really aligned. We mustn't forget that. You don't just do most people end up here very quickly. If you find yourself there, you're most likely not going to answer the question and come to a good decision. But we'll come on to that in a minute. So, what is data science? It's not weather forecast and taking your umbrella with you every day. So the first thing I have to tell you, it doesn't exist. I mean, why doesn't it exist? I used to be, when I trained, I did statistics, and then I did more statistics, and I did even more statistics. And one day, I found I was an applied statistician. And about 5 years ago, I woke up, and I realised I wasn't an applied statistician, I was a data scientist. Pretty amazing transformation overnight. So what is a data scientist? I mean, analysts tell me the same thing, programmers tell me the same thing, so I'm not going to go into this discussion what a data scientist is, whatever. Effectively, I mean, if I really want to be provocative, I'll say you're all applied statisticians secretly, but you don't need to admit it publicly. I know in the conversation at a dinner party, saying I'm an applied statistician isn't so exciting. Data science seems so cool and sexy, let's say. So let me use a definition for this presentation, something quite generic, I hope, but no doubt somebody will have a different definition, but that's not the point. The point is there's three key elements: data, statistics, and programming. We're all familiar with those. In a context, so we just had a weather example in a context, and I add the extra piece on that you're going to make some decision from that. That comes from one of the well-known statisticians in the UK. He wrote a publication at one time saying that all modelling leads to predictions. Now, a guy like me sort of went away and thought, all modelling leads to predictions, all modelling. About 5 years later, I understood what he meant. In reality, it leads to some form of prediction that you can make a decision with. Okay, and I can give you a reference to that very nice paper, but it's quite technical. So, let's look at our questions again. Will it rain today? Yes, no. That's not really the question we want to answer. Probably the question we want to answer is, what is the weather forecast today? And in the next slides, I'll explain why it's more important to answer this question than this precise question. Do free gifts increase sales? I mean, what factors impact sales? I mean, this was the example from Annie about hotels. How do you get people coming back to your business? Give them a promotion. But is it really having the impact that you think? Or is it costing you and you'll be better off not inviting those people back? So think about what is... I'm not interested in what increases my sales, because it might increase my sales here, but some years later, your sales are going down because they took the benefit there. They don't really care some years later. So the real interest tends to be much, much, much more sort of deeper than we often realise. Sometimes we can't answer what's going to happen after many years. That's just because we don't have the data or we don't have the means to do it. So you have to answer these questions, you have to understand the decisions that could be taken. They say, well, I don't know what the decisions will be. Then go back to the people who gave you the data and ask them, what will they do if you told them this? If the data says that by giving away everything for free, you have more customers, what would they do? Of course they're not going to give everything away for free. Try to push to understand that, because if you don't really understand what's happening at the end, you can't do much with your data analysis. So by knowing the decisions, it allows you to think and plan better. It's extremely useful. If I know that no decisions are going to be taken, I know that I can sit back and not do anything. Because they're not going to do anything with my results. What's the point of doing any analysis? I can just send them a few statistics and a beautiful graph and I'm finished. That's not the objective of what we like to do though. So what is the weather forecast for today? What is the key interest in that question? Going to work and returning, coming back home. You want to go to work, you want to be dry. You want to come home, you want to be dry. That was the real intent behind that question. Saying it's going to rain today, if it rains while you're in the office, you probably don't care. Do you? You do. maybe if you look out the window and it's grey, it's not so much fun. So the decision will be, for this will go in home. Sorry, I'm only joking. Take an umbrella, don't take an umbrella, or work from home. You know, if it looks really grey outside, work from home. If it looks really nice, work from home, maybe. Okay. So this is the original example I had. Let's imagine this forecast was for 12 o'clock, lunchtime. You eat at your desk, you're a data scientist. You take a sandwich, and maybe you don't go outside at lunch. So we're going to pretend you don't go outside at lunch. Okay? But if we modify the example, what would you do in the first case? Yesterday it was stormy, rainy. Today you wake up, it's black clouds. Lunchtime it's going to be raining. And at 6 o'clock it might be a bit sunny and cloudy. How many of you, I don't have an answer for this because I'm British, we have a different answer. But raise your hands if you would take an umbrella. You would. Raise your hands if you wouldn't take an umbrella. Wow, you are Portuguese. you'll see why. Okay. On the next day, you say, well, yesterday was okay, it's horrible rain, and it might be raining later, I work from home. The morning it's a bit sunny, you think, okay, this is a good day to take my red umbrella today, because if it does rain, I feel good because I've got my red umbrella. Whichever reason. So you can, but, you know, the real essence there is data science supports decision making. Okay, it supports, that's the key word, supports. Why does it support? It's balancing information. You balance information. Data science is often one part of a bigger picture. I'd love to think that people make decisions on my... Actually, I wouldn't, but let's say I'd love to think that people make decisions on my analysis and take that into consideration as a sole thing. They don't, and there's a good reason for that. We'll come on to that. Your personal experience. Your personal feeling. One thing I've worked in considerably is in healthcare. In oncology or whatever disease. Now, if you know, for example, in oncology, we've done all this analysis, done some beautiful graphs in R and everything. At the end of it, somebody has cancer, they have to make a decision to take some quite aggressive, treatment, have some aggressive treatment, chemotherapy, radiotherapy. And the 5-year survival is 15%. Would you do it? Some would say yes, because my life means everything to me. Others would say, no, for 15%, I don't want to go through that pain or the thing. So the decisions can vary depending on your experiences in life and what your motivation is as well. Why should I have all this treatment? I'm going to get, there's very little chance I'll be alive in 1 year, let alone 5 years. So these things make a difference. So when we're doing data science, we start with the idea of the decision that we would take, but that's no way necessarily the same as what somebody else would do. And risk-taking. Everybody and every situation mandates different risks. Some people like to jump out of planes with a parachute. Some people don't. You have your individual level of risk-taking. You have people who might be much more conservative and say, no, I'm not taking any risk at all. I'm going to care about my babies in, Quackamore, and I'm going to leave them at home. But this is individual. So you have, when decision making comes into it, you have to balance information, look at the personal experience, and what level of risk are you taking. Now let's go back to the weather example. Okay? If it's sunny every day, how many of you would work from home? Yes.
It's too hot in Portugal, we work from home.
Okay, so it's too hot in Portugal, you work from home. How many of you would take an umbrella? Nobody? A sunny day? Okay, you can see why. How many of you wouldn't take an umbrella? Almost everybody. Sunglasses, you would take. Yeah, okay. Now, this is interesting, that's your experience. Imagine you have a skin sensitivity to sun. You have, your pigmentation doesn't support the sun, then you might be forced to work from home. So your decision is on your experience. You cannot take the risk to be in the sun. So that's why it's important to answer the right question. What is a forecast? It's no good telling this person it's going to rain today or not. They might even take an umbrella to protect themselves against the sun. Now, the reason I asked about sunny day and not taking... if you're British, and for many years I used to work in different countries, and we had a habit, we all had a mini umbrella. If you don't want to believe me, my bag over there, I still have a mini umbrella. We have this, and when I discovered this morning, I was almost embarrassed because I made this as a joke, but it's true. This small cloud might turn out to be monsoon rain. You never know. So we don't take that risk. We're not going to let our hair go curly because it's raining or whatever it is. Okay? Okay, so we understand the concept of asking questions and making decisions, whether it's in weather, whether it's in cancer treatment, whether it's selling hotel rooms to somebody or buying stocks and selling stocks. There is a decision-making process, but it's good to understand the different options. More importantly, to understand that people will not take the same decision. And best of all, they might completely ignore your analysis as well. And there's an advantage to that at times. So the data, you have to think about the data before you do all your analysis and things. Sometimes we forget some of the basics. One of the basics is accessibility. What format do you have? I have this expression, sometimes I get this spreadsheet and I think, which black hole did they find that spreadsheet in? Can I work with it? And sometimes this is impossible. So you must be sure that you can work with it. And then on top of that, this spreadsheet comes from a black hole and it's got a legal restriction on it that you can't use it to do any analysis. And you have to be aware of that. We have quite a serious responsibility. I mean, Annie and May, I think you have access to data that's very personal to people. Web companies have data that's personal to people. Healthcare companies do. And there's a lot of legislation that protects people's privacy, and there's security issues around data and so forth. So take the time to understand what legal rights you have over that data and what format it's in. Because if you don't have the legal rights, I would say be very careful dealing with any such data. If it's in a format you can't deal with, take it as a great challenge to program, and it could take up most of your time. The next issue would be appropriateness and validity. If the data you have for weather is from 3 weeks ago, you cannot answer what the question. Well, you can make a forecast going far ahead, but how many people are going to believe it? Very few. You have too much variability. Same goes for health data. If your data is going back 20 years ago, it's a long time ago. The health practices, the health system has changed a lot, and in Portugal, as you realise, it's changed considerably. If you look at how people were eating, people were behaving all those years ago, that's changed as well. So you might not be able to do an analysis that allows you to generalise to make a decision. Your data is too historic to give you a fair answer, and there's many, many other situations, and it may not be valid. And finally, the quality, and this is something we often forget. If you have the opportunity to collect data from the beginning, design it so that you have high quality. Otherwise, what you end up with, garbage in, garbage out. Whatever rubbish data you put into your analysis will give you great results, but you cannot draw any conclusions. So ask the basic questions. How and when was the data collected? Who collected it? Who owns it? That's a legal question. Was it quality control? Yes. How? What did you do to control the quality? Did you have two people measure the same parameter on patients so that you have some validity? Did you train people to collect better data? That increases the quality as well. Are there confidentiality or privacy issues? Do you have names, addresses, telephone numbers, email accounts, anything like that? Or IP addresses even? What information do you have? What exact information? For example, the variables, the types of data, how they connected. And finally, can the data answer the question of interest? Nope. Well, you've done your job. And it's very difficult at this stage to say no, because you have data in your eyes. But be brave enough sometimes to say, no, the data will not answer the questions you want, or you have to change the questions that you want answered. Okay, so in the language of tidy data, in R they call it tidy data, but actually if you go back to when I was working with Stata many years ago, it was tidy versus light. What does tidy data say? Put it in a format that makes it easy for you to analyse. Now there are data sets that you can't simplify, that remain quite complex for good reasons, like network data that might be quite complex. Even then you might be able to bring it to tidy. Try to bring it to something that we can comprehend. We can comprehend two-dimensional data very easily. The moment you start to have arrays with 3, 4, 5 dimensions, it gets quite convoluted and complex. So simplify it in a way where you have each column is a variable, each row is an observation, and each cell is a value. That's the simplest. Now there are examples where you might have more than one values in these. That's not tidy data anymore, but it's unavoidable in some situations. It's not invalid, but it makes it much more difficult to work with. It will take most of your time to get here. I think that's about 80-90% of my time cleaning data. It's quite good fun as well. Now, R makes this easier with the tidyverse of packages. I think some of you will be familiar. If you want to read in data, you can use the read R and read Excel packages. There's other variants. You can read in from other software like SAS, Stata, SPSS, and Haven. And he gave an example where we had to find a link between Click and R. There's some APIs. You can connect to databases. You can also take data from websites. Now, we see this initiative for open data, but the meaning of open data varies from person to person. Some make it very accessible in a very nice format. Others just put it on a random website and hope that you work it out. And when they do that, you have the web sort of packages within how to do that. To put the data into different shapes, get yourself familiar with tibble, tidyr, dplyr, stringr, lubridate, hours, minutes, second, and forecast for categorical variables. These are really, really important in making your life easy. It takes a lot of time, practice, and getting it wrong to do this part right. Of course, there's something called a pipe, so I'm not going to go into the details. What this allows you to do is to make your data cleaning readable. There's a philosophy which basically says that your programs are not for a computer to process, but for other people to read, including the future you. The number of times I've gone back to old programs and thought, did I really write that? And why did I do that? It was really cool at the time, no doubt, but now I have no idea why it's doing that. So things like this make it a bit more intuitive, but still don't be too clever for your own good. Okay. It takes you longer to work it out than to find it, often. Analysis, my favourite part. Your answer should be unbiased. If your data is messed up, you're not getting an unbiased answer. I can't help you with that. I can just tell you your data is not going to give you an answer. Should be robust, and I'll come back to what I mean by robust. It means that if you change some assumption about your model, do you still get similar results? If you don't, then you have to understand why your model is broken. And then your analysis, once you've done them, should be generalizable to let people make a decision. It's not the same as extrapolating out of range necessarily, but allowing enough prediction or extrapolation for people to do something with that analysis. The main point is in red there. Simplify your data. What do I mean by that? Reduce the dimensionality of your data. If you've got data that's got 50,000 rows or 100 million rows, there's no way anybody can digest that. But there's some very nice ways you can do very basic things like data summaries, visualizations, and modeling. So let's come on to those. Start simple. Start with basic statistics. Start with plots. Look at the raw data. Does it make sense? Ooh, I have a person here who's 157 years old. There's the data quality issue for you to resolve. So it's important to start by looking at these things because they'll warn you of things going on. There was something Hanny was showing where the clusters naturally go into males and females. Do your basic statistics before you get to the clustering. Look at the means, look at the medians, standard deviations, minimums, maximums. Between the groups that you think could be influential in the clustering, for example. You have some intuition. It doesn't mean it's going to be right, and it doesn't mean that's what you're going to communicate at the end. I always like to use an expression, swim with your data, get familiar with it, feel safe in your data. If you don't understand your data, forget about any analysis. I see a lot of people skip this step of understand the raw data. Summary statistics are your friends. They will save you later on. If some model gives you a crazy result, you think, I remember there was a very large value there. Maybe it's doing that. Or the values are much lower than what we've seen previously. Visualizations do the same. Most importantly, once you've done the summary statistics, you might not need to do anything else. These are your easiest jobs. Get them out of the way to do the more exciting stuff. Okay, modelling. Now, every model you use, you must justify it. You must understand what you're doing. And this is where you're going to see my criticism of data science come in the next slide. You must understand the data that you're using. Are you taking a subset? Why? If anybody's taking a subset or excluding values, the first question I ask is, why? And what am I really saying? I'm saying to you, I don't trust you. Okay, I'm being very honest about that. As soon as people start cherry-picking the data, it's like they want to show me results that they like. What model variables are you using? Are you using age, gender, time? What are you using? Tell me the variables you're using. Be clear about the equations, formulas, and or algorithms that you're using. I don't want to see a black box. Okay? And most importantly, every model, every algorithm, every formula, underneath it somewhere has an assumption. What are those assumptions? And do you believe them? Because when people often understand the assumptions of their own model, they think, whoa, I don't believe this model anymore. That's the fundamentals. And machine learning, I'm going to be very radical. It's statistics in one way or another. Okay. Some people are going to argue till kingdom comes, but it's got the key elements here. So that means that all this applies to machine learning. Explain what you've done and why you've done it. I think machine learning is really cool, and again, it was like me waking up from applied statistics with data scientists. I woke up one day realising these classification things that university courses have taught me are machine learning. Cool. I'm in fashion again, I felt like, you know. So this, it's much more complex than that. I'm simplifying a bit. So the health warnings are modelling or analysis is statistics. And one of the reasons I'm quite harsh about the definition of data scientist is I said the laws of gravity apply to data scientists, which means that the laws of statistics apply to you as well. Just because you reclassify yourself as a data scientist doesn't mean you can ignore the assumptions, you can ignore what allows you to generalize your data. Is your data a representative example of what you want to be applying to later on? Okay? You must understand your models you use. Because, remember, going back to one of my first slides, I said you're building trust with the others. If you don't understand your models, that's it, you've broken the trust. You must know what strengths and weaknesses your model has and understand them. And more importantly, when you're communicate where the model fails. We come on to some quotes, and this is the best part about my job. I can always be wrong, and it's the satisfaction of working in data science. Because George Box, a very famous statistician, said, essentially, all models are wrong, but some are useful. Isn't it a great job where you're paid to be wrong? Fantastic. It's a bit more complex than that. In fact, I like his second quote from the same publication, which is, remember all models are wrong. The practical question is, how wrong do they have to be to not be useful? Okay? So where does your model break? Where does it stop working? Where can you stop generalizing? I think this is absolutely essential. And there's a second one from Turkey in 1962, which when we went back to the example of rain. Is it going to rain today? It's a precise question, yes, no. 50% of the chance you'll be right and wrong. It's pretty good, actually, compared to most of the work we do. So it says, far better an approximate answer to the right question, which is often vague, because the weather forecast is vague, than an exact answer to the wrong question. Yes, it's going to rain. Which can be made very precise. Yes, it's going to rain. So try to answer the right questions, even if there's a lot of uncertainty and variability around your answer. That's absolutely essential. Okay. When you're doing the analysis in R, you have a whole array of tools. Of course, summary statistics you can do with means and summaries from base R, but the summary statistics you have dplyr, ggplot2 and plotly, which was demonstrated by Gabrielino earlier. Very nice, because if you want to look out for values that are unusual, you can just go across and find them with your mouse. I don't recommend using plotly for final examples unless you're making them available on the web. Then for the modelling, you have tools that allow you to tidy up modelling that you do with these different sort of regression type algorithms. There's other algorithms as well, linear models, generalised linear models, and over non-linear models. But you can put those and tidy them up and then compare lots of models and see which one you would give more credit to. Then we have different methods for machine learning. So R is very versatile. I can't think of a problem that you can't really, in terms of data analysis, solve in R. Especially with the new additions of libraries that allow you to connect to big databases via Spark, and there's other ways of making connections to large data, or big data. What is big data? That's for another day. And finally, make it reproducible, because one day you will go back and you will read your work and you think, hey, I was so clever then, I have no idea what I was doing. Okay? And it's essential. And when you do that, that becomes part of your communication. Why does it become, before I go into why, that's the next slide, the key points to communicate are your objectives. What questions did you answer? What data did you use, and what was the value of that data? The source, the collection methodology, representativeness, quality, validity. And then the analysis, be very clear. Start with the summary statistics and graph. Lead people into it. Get them comfortable with your data as well. Don't think because you've done all the simple analysis, they just need a fancy model. build up a story with the basic statistics, because there might be some contradictions between the summary statistics and the analysis. And then when you're presenting that, naturally, you have to present the results of your summary statistics and analysis along with the methodology. And present your conclusions in an unbiased way. Your conclusions are, tomorrow it's going to start cloudy, rain in the middle of the day, and it'll be very sunny at the end of the day. But you're not telling people what to do. There's no decision making at this point. You don't need to do that in your conclusion. Depending on what you're doing, if you're writing reports for regulators like in the pharmaceutical industry, then you have to work with the subject matter experts. But whatever happens, these people should be involved in every stage of your analysis. So you have the statistics part, the programming part, and the experts involved as well. The three disciplines must work hand in hand. The statistics and programming can be one person, it can be 2 people, it can be 100 people, depending on how much data and what problem you're working. Expert input can be 1 person or more as well. If you're looking at clinical trials, you have a doctor, you have a safety specialist, you have a pharmacologist, animal experimentation specialist. So you have a lot of dimensions coming in. So you need the right people involved. That's what makes our job the most interesting thing. Otherwise it's numbers and we're just playing with numbers, with no context. Understand your audience. So if you have a regulator, they want the full details. If you're sending information about car emissions or you're sending information about pharmaceutical products, a full report or a publication they need, or generally much more than that. If you want to share it with the community or other academics or people in your company, then an article or a blog might be sufficient. If you want to present it to your big boss, then try to go down to about 1 or 2 bullet points if you can. They just want to know if they're going to live or die or something like that. Don't make it too complex. They don't have time. No, I'm joking. But you can do an executive summary, maybe 1 or 2 pages. But when you're doing presentations to the bigger bosses, if you get 1 slide, you're really important. That's a reality, I'm sorry. The openness and transparency. Share, link programs, data in your full report. Be open about it. Share everything as much as you can. Because you might have some legal limitations on the data, but it doesn't stop you sharing the programs and the full report. Other people might find issues in what you've done, and that's very healthy for the whole decision-making process. Make sure your work is reproducible, and that's part of the openness and transparency. Don't be afraid of openness and transparency. If R had not been open and transparent, if Robert Gentleman and Rossi Harker, who started the R project, had not been open and transparent, we wouldn't be here having this great Our Ladies Lisbon meeting. Okay, so there is a value in sharing. It advances us quite far. The communication style, make sure it's understandable, make sure it's relevant and interesting. If your audience falls asleep, you've just thrown away so much great work. And I spent so many years watching great projects and thinking, you just killed your own project. Don't do that. Think, what's important for the audience? Don't think what looks great on the screen. So the message is keep it simple, clear and concise. In R, again, you can communicate this using R Markdown, which allows you to produce different styles of format. You can use sharing mechanisms like Shiny, OpenCPU, HTML widgets. You have ways of sharing maps. So R gives you a lot of possibility to share, which means it gives you a lot of possibilities to be open and transparent. Okay, coming to the end of my presentation now. In summary, we started with this. It's very simple. Question, and we have to make a decision. And somebody does some magic in the middle. That's you, the data scientist. Make sure that everything here is open, transparent. Start with lots of data. Don't give that as a basis on which people will use to make decisions. Nobody makes decisions on large databases. It's like reading a telephone directory. If you're too young to remember what a telephone directory is, I have a problem. Never mind. Anyway, moving on swiftly, so simplify lots of this data. There's a great Hans Rosling video. He has something like 120,000 points, which he puts through an animation graph, and the graph goes like this. People are underdeveloped and a little bit more developed in the 18th century, and then he shows you how people develop and how they're all becoming good and how society will be better. Great video. 120,000 points in 5 minutes. Watch it. Look on YouTube. It's here. It's a TED Talk. So simplify it. And he does, the unfortunate poor guy died recently, but he's got some great problems. Hans Rosling. I'll put them on the slides when they become available. Make your analysis accessible. Make sure that the dimensionality is enough for people to understand. Some of you are familiar with this normal distribution. It's characterized by two values, mean and standard deviation. Whether you've got 1 million data points or 20 million data points or 20 data points, two values will summarize a lot of it. That's what makes your analysis accessible. People can understand means and standard deviations. Even if you give 2 means and 2 standard deviations, people can understand that. You give them 20 million values, they're going to fall over. Once you've got that in a form, communicate it in an interesting way. Make it interesting for yourself, make it interesting for the audience, because you have to stand there and present. If you look bored, they are bored. If you're not excited, they are not excited. If you're not motivated, they are not motivated. So my final slide here is focus on answering the questions with data. Okay, that's our job. We take data, we answer questions. Understand the decisions that could be taken, and don't answer the wrong question. Will it rain today? Wasn't really the question you want to answer. It's easy, it's quick. What's the forecast today? Try to keep things simple, and the reason I say that, I'm really quite Andrea who works with me hears this again and again. Simplify, simplify, simplify. There is space for complex solutions, but most of the time people have missed the simple answers. So start simple, and unless the simple answers don't get you anywhere, only then go up to more complex solutions. If it's simple, then it's easier for you to understand and explain, easier to communicate clearly and concisely, and makes your work reproducible. Makes it a lot easier to reproduce your work. Now, of course, complex analysis can also fall in this category. Now, work closely with your collaborators. As I said, you need the subject matter experts, you need the statisticians, you need the programmers. But your collaborators are also in the data science communities and the R communities, like the R Ladies event we have today. Share ideas, discuss ideas, come and give presentations. I mean, it's to the benefit of all of you. So on that, I would say, thank you very much.
So now it's the time for questions. Is anyone?
Question at the back end. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed.
Thank you.
Just one question. You mentioned about black boxes. I think that we are going towards some place that we will have more and more black boxes. When talking about deep learning and stuff like that, when we're analyzing text, images, and it's very hard. We can't understand the models.
Well, and I agree with you. I think we are going in the direction of more and more black boxes. What is the cost of going in that direction? It's very high, because one day a decision will be taken that has quite serious consequences. And at that point, people will look back and say, why did it happen? Oh, because we had a black box and we didn't know what we're doing. So this is why I hope these sort of community meetings encourage you to be open and transparent. And by being open and transparent, you're almost forced not to work with black boxes. You're forced to understand the assumptions. You're forced to understand the models. You're forced to understand your data. You're forced to build trust with your own data and then build trust with the people you communicate it to. But you're absolutely right. We are going in that direction. And I wouldn't say it's scary. I think there's lots of mechanisms around for us to prevent major problems. And this is a good example, like the Our Lady Lisbon meetings. Okay, thank you.
More questions? Yeah? Okay.
I'd like to know what are some of the challenges, technical challenges that you see that are has.
I think the technical challenges are relatively straightforward in a way. If you spend enough time working with R, reading about R, looking at other people's programs, coming to these meetings, interacting with the people around you, you overcome the technical challenges. I think it's like, you might not be, the star of stars, that's not necessary, but you can do great analysis with persistence and working with it. My bigger concern is exactly the thinking part. Okay, knowing the technical part isn't your problem. It's really understanding what are the questions, what decisions will be made, and what's the best way I can help people make the best decisions. So from the technical part, I mean, yes, you can list challenges in terms of, but they're overcome, and you'll overcome them. I'm sure of it.
Thank you.
Okay. Elizabeth.
Hi. I was wondering if someone is starting in data science career and has some knowledge of R, maybe someone is proficient in R, would you still recommend to learn other softwares, other programming languages?
Not immediately, no. So the answer is I would recommend it in the right context. There's no one answer. It fundamentally depends on how you use it and when you use it. But I would say first get really good at one language. And I'm not even going to prescribe R. I'm a big fan of R. I promote it as much as I can. But if you already have a strong basis to start with Python, I'd say, well, make that very strong and then learn a second language. It's the same as a spoken language. It takes you some time to get the basics. And then it takes you some time to be conversational, and then it takes you time not to even realise you're switching between two languages. First get very comfortable with whichever language you're in, and then switch to the other. The danger of learning two or three at the same time is you start confusing ideas. Okay, so in one you might have to put a semicolon, you find it in another program, or you define things in one program that you don't need to define in another language. So get really good at one, and my career has benefited from learning various languages. That's because things have moved so much over time. So you might start with R. We don't know. In 10 years' time, R might not be the fashionable thing. So you'll be forced to change anyway. So don't start immediately learning another language, but at the right moment, yes, learn another one. Two, I think, are pretty good. With a bit of different aspects, it helps a lot. Another question?
Yeah, I have another question. For an entry level, starting a career as a data scientist, so would you recommend to start with R? Would you say it is easier to enter the world of data?
Well, there's a bit of a confusion about R. R is two things in my mind nowadays. You've got the base R, which is the R core team has developed a fantastic product. It's very stable, it's reliable. I mean, I've been using it since '96, and I can't say I've had major problems with it. And if there's been a major problem, they do a quick bug fix. So the R base project is extremely strong, and it has a particular way of thinking. It's object-orientated. But then we have the new tidyverse, which is a functional language, which allows you to read what you're doing in a way that you read natural language. So if I'm going to encourage anybody, it would be, if you have a clean slate, start with R, start with tidyverse. Don't look at base R. Get really good at tidyverse, but then go back and learn base R, because it will strengthen your tidyverse understanding. And there's a lot of discussion, R is great, R is great. R is two things in my mind at the moment. And I used to teach base R for beginners, but now I don't. I just go straight into tidyverse, you're making beautiful graphs, you're doing beautiful analysis and so forth very quickly. But it doesn't mean you get away from base R, because things will break in the tidyverse that has some association back to the thinking of base R. So the answer is yes, if you have no other package. Now, if somebody's been using another package, my answer might differ.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.